RuneScape has a long history with microtransactions. Some players say that it's play to win, while others say it is not that bad. But in 2026, Jagex removed almost every single pay to win feature from the game, reducing the monetization inside of the 25-year-old MMO significantly. Today, we're breaking down what really happened and answering the big question of how pay to win is RuneScape in 2026. Hi, my name is Edamoos. This is Player Perspective, a small mini series where I get to talk about anything gaming. And welcome in, and let's get right into it. What even is RuneScape? RuneScape is a fantasy MMORPG released in 2001 by Jagex. Over 300 million accounts have been created over its lifetime, and there are two main versions of the game. There's old school RuneScape, which is nostalgic and community driven with player voted polls, and then there's modern RuneScape that is headed up by the development team, has modern graphics, has a robust combat system, and a long history of microtransactions. Now, the core gameplay is pretty simple. You train skills, you complete quests, you fight big old bosses, and then you chase long-term goals, and those are all determined by the player. Not every single player will have the same exact goal as another player. You might see some commonalities, like maxing all your skills, getting this cool item, but every single goal inside of the game is determined by the player, as it's a sandbox MMO. RuneScape has no fixed end point. There's no final boss that says you win the game. There's no grand ending. There's no gigantic you beat the game sign. And that, my friend, is very important because it makes the pay to win debate just a little bit more complicated. But first, we need to define what microtransactions are. First and foremost, microtransactions are small purchases inside of a video game using real world money, and they come in a few major categories. We have cosmetic only. These change how your character looks but don't affect direct gameplay. In RuneScape, that means outfits, weapon overrides, pets, teleport animations, walk animations. There is no direct player power advantage provided by cosmetic only purchases. However, cosmetics do play a big part in the visual progression of your character. Inside of these big virtual worlds, people look at other players because human beings are social creatures. We like to look around and see who is among us so we can have an idea of like where we stand in the social ladder. But then there's convenience microtransactions, and these save time or reduce the grind that MMOs are infamous for, and RuneScape is no exception. These purchases don't directly give power. In Final Fantasy XIV, one of the biggest MMOs on the market, this comes in the form of level and quest skips. The quest skips in particular are incredibly important because you can't reach any of the end game content where usually everybody says the game comes online until you finish all of the campaigns. Final Fantasy XIV has ginormous campaign expansions that have hundreds of hours of gameplay when it comes to their campaign, and to be able to get to the end of it, you're going to have to go through all of the story. Unless you're really liking the JRPG style of the gameplay, which for me was a little bit hard to get into as a Western gamer, it was rather rough, even though the story itself was extremely good. Now, Square Enix, the creators of Final Fantasy XIV, will sell you a level skip and a quest skip for $25, which is absolutely insane that people will purchase an entire expansion just to not play it. That just don't make no sense to me, but that is the reality of things, and that is the level of microtransactions in Final Fantasy XIV. Now, I'm not saying this to trash talk the game. I actually quite enjoy Final Fantasy XIV for its exploration, the story, and a number of other factors. However, I am just presenting the reality of how the gaming space operates and what it's been looking like for several years now. A huge appeal of RuneScape is actually the journey of being a regular person spawning in Lumbridge and then becoming this very strong symbol within the world. It is the journey of the hero and not necessarily just being the hero. There's a really big part about actually going through the leveling process, being able to go through your quest, and then unlocking more powerful things as you progress through the entire game. Like, RuneScape isn't necessarily just being able to hit those levels, it's really all about how you're getting to those levels, the slow grind, the very hard dry streaks when you're hunting one specific weapon. It is the journey and the growth that happens throughout that that, which is very much like life, to be honest. It's just a very hard grind, and the payoff is the fact that you went through the grind. It's associated and embodied in some kind of item or a achievement, but that is the essence of RuneScape. But that doesn't mean that RuneScape doesn't in some ways invalidate that journey by providing some form of monetized advantage. In RuneScape, the pay for convenience factors were actually in the form of proteins, dummies, and auras. Proteins and dummies were essentially these little items you would get from Treasure Hunter, the in-game gambling mechanic, and it would provide you a number of resources you could use to train your account that required no monetary gain from buying things on the market board or the Grand Exchange, the giant trading post in the game, or you would end up gaining auras, which were direct power boosts or just resource saving, increase success rate when gathering resources, and the only way to get that was through loyalty points, which was a system that you would be able to gain through membership consecutively. So every single month you gained a little bit more loyalty points. The longer you were a member, you got more loyalty points, and then you would be able to eventually purchase these very powerful buffs called auras. Now, auras are a weird one because they're kind of pay for convenience, kind of pay for progression, and we're about to go into pay for progression right now. Now, pay for progression. These speed up leveling or upgrade or unlock gameplay faster. RuneScape used to sell XP lamps, which was direct experience buying through Treasure Hunter. You could purchase stars, which were just bonus XP, which just doubled the amount of experience you needed per hour. And then there were Treasure Hunter promotions that provided an exponential amount of these supplies and resources, like proteins, stars, lamps that we talked about previously. This is a very popular tactic in mobile games where you'll end up seeing a lot of people purchasing or unlocking a level they may have crashed on, or being able to have stronger armies or units to be able to get through something like Clash of Clans. It's a very popular model there, which isn't that surprising when you do consider that RuneScape technically is a mobile game because you can play it on mobile. And finally, the most outrageous form of pay to win that has ever been introduced into gaming: loot boxes. Loot boxes are randomized chests that, or some kind of gambling mechanic that has randomized rewards with a variety of tiers, usually ranging from super ultra rare to like almost impossible to get to extremely common. RuneScape's Treasure Hunter was the full loot box system for that game. Games like Genshin Impact, FIFA, and Diablo Immortal use similar tactics to be able to maximize profits out of their player base. Now, at one point in its history, RuneScape used literally all four categories at different points in its entire history of it being a game, but in 2026, the progression and loot box categories have either been extremely reduced and altered or flat out removed entirely. We gotta talk about the actual severity of monetization in games. So, microtransactions exist on a very large severity scale, ranging from cosmetic all the way through pay to win, which is the general term that a lot of people take monetization as. There's cosmetic, convenience, progression, and then ultimately paying to win, which is the overall term of like being able to purchase only things from the store to be able to go through your account and complete, quote unquote, the game. The more a purchase affects gameplay, the more severe it becomes. Pay to win, in a general sense, happens when you buy items or some kind of effect that you can't normally earn in game. It skips major pieces of gameplay, or you gain a competitive advantage. The gaming industry earns over $100 billion a year from monetization and microtransactions, so these systems are designed to be extremely effective. RuneScape's history with microtransactions begins all the way back in 2012 with the School of Fortune, which was quickly replaced with Treasure Hunter. Treasure Hunter sold XP lamps, stars, proteins, dummies, and other progressive boosts. Some players liked the fast leveling, many felt it undermined RuneScape's core identity of earning your progress, and others saw it as straight up gambling, which, let's just be blunt, it literally was. It looked exactly like a slot machine, and it was terrible. Very, very bad for a lot of people, and if you had a gambling problem, all this was another way to spend more of your hard-earned money on essentially digital goods. Then, over time, more systems were added to this monetization practice. We have bonds, which you can purchase for in game money, for membership, or a number of other bonuses like changing your name in game. You could purchase additional bank space, which is actually a very important thing because storage in RuneScape is extremely important. There are many materials, armor, equipment, other things you need to progress your account that require inventory spaces with your account. And with bank spaces and storage spaces being quite limited, especially in the early game, getting a lot of bank space will help manage the needs of your account, and it's a very hot commodity. You could purchase more bank spaces using in-game money by purchasing bonds, or you could straight up buy bonds with real-world money and then be able to get more bank space from there. There was also a point when RuneScape introduced its own battle pass called the Yak Track, which was just essentially this gigantic list of tasks that you get, and you would be able to purchase a bunch of other things as well from there, which was honestly just level skips on the pass and more cosmetics in itself. By the mid 2020s, RuneScape had one of the most complex monetization ecosystems in the entire MMO genre, and I would argue in gaming in general. When you really look at it from the wide spectrum of things, it's kind of ridiculous how heavy Jagex was laying that big old monetization pipe on the player base of this game. Now, I want to take a look at how the community defines pay to win. Players define pay to win extremely differently. Some say it's pay to win if you can buy progress you can't reasonably earn yourself. Others say it's pay to win if you can skip gameplay entirely. Others focus on competitive advantages or achievements. But because RuneScape has no set win condition, many players call it pay to progress instead of pay to win. But we discussed about earlier about how pay to progress can be relatively the same, and if progress is the goal of the game, ultimately at any point, then I guess it would be pay to win, but it never really gets you to that end goal of being able to hit your final goals as a player, unless it does fall into directly just maxing out your account, which you technically could have done by using the microtransaction or monetization systems provided to you as a service. But again, RuneScape has no official win condition. There is no final end state. Every single player decides their own goals. Some players want every single cosmetics, collectible, every pet in the game, every override. Others want a max total level, hit max XP, complete every quest, complete every small mini quest associated with those quests, all the challenges, every single boss log. Some only care about PVM, which is just the bossing in the game, how much DPS you can output, how much high-end gear you can get, if you can purchase best in slot, or how efficient you can be gaining your XP and leveling your accounts. A lot of people chase wealth, GP, wares, party hats, third age items, collectibles, clue scroll logs. Some just want to roleplay, socialize, and just have some clan interaction and be with their other clanmates. RuneScape is a sandbox game. Your goal is whatever you decided to be that a wholehearted 1,000-hour journey, or you're just trying to finish maybe getting a woodcutting level over in Draenor. And that's because there's no single definition of winning. The old monetization system was designed to target every type of player. Collectors were targeted with rare cosmetics that you could only achieve by spending real-world money. There is a level of status of being able to have that item, at least in some degree. Achievers were targeting getting their XP goals with lamps and proteins and being able to get some level of accomplishment from there. PVM players who only liked doing in-game raids and bosses, were targeted with faster access to higher level content by getting those XP injections from lamps or bonus XP or dummies or auras or anything else that provided player power. The explorers, people who like doing achievement diaries or being able to hit every single part of the map, were targeted with the XP lamps and the bonus XP as well, because that is still a pay for progress and pay for convenience, ultimately being a time save to get to that end game content quicker. Players who just wanted to be able to purchase end game or just get better gear in general were able to purchase bonds, be that with real world money, to be able to sell on the market board or the Grand Exchange and get some cash and be able to purchase whatever items they needed. So essentially, every single thing that was provided in the game that you were being shown to and advertised in the game to purchase was readily available for every single type of player that enjoyed RuneScape. This is exactly what monetization psychology describes. Design microtransactions to monetize every single type of player, no matter what their personal goals are. And RuneScape did that extremely effectively until 2026. So let's answer the question of, is RuneScape actually pay to win? Well, there's two sides of this coin. The first side is that RuneScape is not pay to win. You couldn't buy best in slot gear directly because there were still outstanding circumstances. Yes, you could purchase the best in slot armor, but then you would still be missing perks, which were unlocked through the skill invention, and then you'd still have to go ahead and unlock the ability to make those perks. You'd have to unlock the ability to go and make the better version of those perks. You would still need to access and complete a bunch of quests to unlock a higher tier of buffs and prayers like Soul Split, Turmoil, which ultimately provides a higher damage per minute bonus as compared to just straight up buying unaugmented, unperked gear than somebody that has invested more time to get these other items and effects. You couldn't purchase those quest completions or the achievements required to give you more DPM. XP boost accelerated the progress and made it quicker to get there, but it didn't really replace the overall gameplay. And Treasure Hunter required thousands of dollars to meaningfully skip the leveling process and max your account. There's one dude on here that ended up spending $13,000 to not train anything on his account and max it out completely. That is an absurd amount of money that no regular person is going to do. But to be very honest, the psychology of the game was built to target whales. That's how all monetization practices work. If you don't have any whales that keep the game afloat, there's no need to end up keeping it. And for RuneScape's sake, the whales weren't necessarily staying here anymore. And then there's the other side of the coin that do argue that RuneScape was insanely paid to win. Treasure Hunter sold experience, resources, and direct bonus XP to skip the grind. Bonds allow you to purchase gold, letting you buy gear and then more resources to progress more, circumventing the traditional money making cycle and then making your skills and then circling back. That some cosmetics would cost over 1 billion gold if you got lucky in getting them from Treasure Hunter, effectively requiring real world money to hit absurd levels of wealth. Bond inflation made membership completely inaccessible to a lot of regular players that are playing casually, due to the bonds providing treasure hunter keys to be able to be redeemed as one of the perks from buying a bond. There was even an extra currency called oddments that provided even more of these resources for spending more money on the keys, making it almost like a trifecta of fuck you. Now, both arguments have some truth in them. I have always believed that RuneScape was a pay for progress game, which kind of would look like pay to win to a certain extent. You still had to finish a lot of the quests. There were many items in the game that you could not purchase your way through or earn. The achievements for Grandmaster and the Master Combat achievements, which require some of the most insane tactics to be able to complete and earn the Grandmaster and Master auras. These are only completed in game. There was no level skip. There was nothing you could do to purchase these items outside of just buying it from other players, which in itself is its own can of worms, but it's still in game. You couldn't purchase a completionist cape from just leveling up your account. You could progress that faster by purchasing XP, but then you still had to go ahead and do every single quest in the game, complete all the achievement diaries, go through all the miscellaneous things that comp requires, get all the music tracks, unlock every single piece of environment that there is in this game. There is still a very broad requirement to do everything in this game and complete it, quote unquote, based on the game's own standards. You couldn't purchase these things to directly achieve those prestigious standings. It really varies on what your actual goals are in this game. It's probably one of my favorite things about it. It's so open-ended, and it's so open-ended very, very well, because I think RuneScape does a really good job of just like, go do this thing, go do that thing. It is a fantastic go do this thing game with number go up. There's nothing that beats that. Now, to make sure I wasn't talking in my own bubble, I put a poll out on my channel. Which, by the way, if you're not subscribed right now, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because I put out polls and a bunch of other RuneScape content here on the channel as well. And I wanted to see what players actually think today in modern RuneScape after all of these monetization changes. Is RuneScape still pay to win after the 2026 Road to Restoration removal of monetization? And over 1,100 people voted. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody coming by. 10% said yes, it is still pay to win. 22% said it is pay to win elements, and 53% said it's pay for convenience, while the small 15% did say it's not pay to win at all. This tells us that most players in RuneScape really believe that there's no longer pay to win. Pay to convenience still matters and it still exists, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, I want to talk about what pay for convenience even means. It's a time-saving mechanic. They don't give raw power. They automate some chores like having to click every few minutes and pick up your materials. There is a legendary pet that literally goes and picks up items dropped on the ground for you, so that is a convenience factor, not necessarily winning anything. Or it just speeds up your general progression. In other MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV, again, there are the level boosts. In ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, you get a gigantic crafting bag that expands your inventory. And then in other games, you can still skip stories, and Albion, you get the more resources. Convenience accelerates the path to power, but it doesn't directly sell the power. You still have to go through the trial by fire and complete a lot of content. For combat, you have to learn the complex rotations and the intricacies of how the system works. You still have to learn about how to move around the map faster. You still have to unlock lodestones to teleport around the world. You still got to complete and hit the quest requirements and get certain items to complete those achievements. There are still requirements to be able to be meaningful and have an actual whole well-rounded account. But RuneScape in 2026 looks a lot different than what it used to. There's no more treasure hunter, there's no more loot boxes. The way that the membership and the subscription has even changed. There's no more Premier Bundle, making it feel like it's a FOMO miss, that you're not getting as much as you could. There's only a 1-month subscription and a full 12-month subscription. That itself is on can of worms. It could cost $15 now, but that's up to you if you want to spend that. You could also just get the bonds in game and pay for it that way. There's no longer anything else that promotes and advertises for Treasure Hunter in game. There's no microtransactions that are directly impacting the actual in game economy, with supplies being completely forgotten and circumvented with proteins and dummies that just provided you an abundance of supplies and experience. There's no longer an infinite spending sink besides purchasing cosmetics that you can buy in this game anymore. You just purchase the subscription. There used to be even a monetization model on how much XP you're getting per month with this thing called Rune Metrics, and now it's just provided to you with the added cost of your subscription, which is kind of cool. I'm really happy about that, because why the fuck am I paying to look at how much XP I'm getting per hour? So let's answer the question of how pay to win RuneScape actually is in 2026 and looking forward in the future. RuneScape used to be heavily pay to progress, and at times really did feel pay to win. Treasure Hunter, the XP lamps, the stars, the extra supplies from proteins and dummies, and then of course bonds, all created this system where money could skip a large chunk of the actual gameplay and the whole heart of RuneScape. But in 2026, RuneScape doesn't really feel as pay to win as it used to. No, there's no selling XP anymore, there's no loot boxes, you can't really do progression skips as hard as you used to. What remains is the pay for convenience, and that itself is even super limited. And the community poll on the channel shows that most players agree. Does convenience matter? Yeah. But I don't think that the monetization that is on offer now really constitutes pay to win, especially if you're starting a brand new account. If you started RuneScape today, you're going to have to go through the entire thing. There's no shortcuts anymore, besides a little bit of bonus XP that you can honestly earn more in-game. You can earn more bonus XP just doing quests in the game, but like really, it's not worth it to buy it, genuinely. It scales to your level, it's not very useful, and the XP rates in the game are so fast already, at least in terms of for the lower to mid-game, that it's not even worth purchasing any of these bonus XP bundles from the store. Now, I think a lot of people will say that there are millions of players that have actually already used Treasure Hunter to progress their accounts. And I don't want to play in a game where there are other people here that have played their accounts with real world money as an advantage. Now, integrity in a game will always be questioned. To be very honest, in the modern space, there's so many ways to cheat in gaming nowadays that it's kind of insane. For old school RuneScape, there is an item called the Infernal Cape. It's one of the most prestigious items in the game. You cannot earn it until you have killed Zuck in the Inferno, which is probably and arguably one of the hardest pieces of content that the game has on offer. 50% of the player base, as according to Reddit, at least from my little bit of research, have purchased a Infernal Cape, meaning somebody else went on their account, did the Infernal for them, and then they purchased with real money the Infernal Cape. And then there's a number of examples like that. In Final Fantasy XIV, you don't know who actually went through the story or purchased a level skip to get through the entirety of the game. In Albion Online, you can't tell which player is on Premiere and who's going to be end up going through the game, grinding away, and earning things at a 50% rate than you are. There's a number of ways to try and challenge the integrity of how somebody played the game, and it's very hard to actually enjoy and be in that headspace if you're just constantly thinking about what other people are doing. I've always gone around the game and just kind of enjoyed having people around me, but when it comes to my own achievements, I just like to do my own achievements. That's just how it goes. The comparison game will always be exhausting. It's a very difficult conversation to have, and it just comes from so many different angles, and it ultimately comes down to the player how much they really care about what other people are doing. In a competitive game, it means a lot more, but RuneScape doesn't really have a competitive scene. Yes, there are hard scores. Yes, there are high scores that immortalize players as rank 1, rank 100, rank 1000. There are lots of those things that embody that competitiveness, but in reality, most people don't care about them. Like, they don't really matter at all. And as well, because the game is 25 years old, a lot of those high scores have been solidified for years. Only time it really matters is when a new skill or new activity is introduced into the game that is competitive in nature, and you can't even use any of the monetization bonuses like bonus XP to be able to level up your account and progress it quicker. They usually lock all of the progression at high score ranks or the ability to add bonus XP to those skills for 6 months. You can't even put anything else to advance it faster into that skill. So it doesn't even matter when you look at the high score and question if a player actually hit rank 1 because they actually did hit rank 1. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your comments down below and what you think about monetization in modern gaming, in the MMO space, or in RuneScape in general. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a good time with the new Player on House update. I'm mad excited about that, and I'll catch you in the next one. If you want to see what RuneScape is like when you just actually enjoy and play the game, or if you just want to see what it's like in 2026, check out these videos. Catch you later. Bye.